Welcome to Deep Sleep Storyteller. And tonight, I want you to do something you haven't done in a very long time. Tonight, you are not the driver. You don't have to know the route. You don't have to check the mirror. You don't have to watch the road or carry the map or worry about where any of this is going. Tonight, someone who loves you is in the front seat. Their hands are on the wheel. And your only job, your one and only job in this entire world tonight, is to pull the blanket up, close your eyes, and let the rain do the rest. You are in the back seat now, and you are safe, and we are already moving. Let's go. There is a particular kind of safety that exists nowhere else in the adult world. A safety that is not built from achievement or planning or the careful management of circumstances. A safety that is not earned through preparation or maintained through vigilance. A safety that is simply given, simply present, simply. Say the way warmth is there when you come in from the cold and the door closes behind you and the outside world is suddenly and completely on the other side of something solid. It is the safety of being carried, of being in motion without being responsible for the motion, of going somewhere without needing to know where, without needing to track the route or calculate the arrival or manage any of the 10,000 small decisions that going somewhere usually requires of the person who is doing the driving. You have not felt this particular safety in a very long time. Because for a very long time, for most of your adult life, if you're honest about it, you have been in the front seat. You have been the one with your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road, and your mind running quietly in the background through all the things that need managing, all the routes that need navigating, all the responsibilities that are yours because you're the one in the front seat. And the front seat is where the responsibility lives. And this is not a complaint. This is simply the truth of adult life. The truth that the front seat is where adults spend most of their time, where they are expected to be, where they have learned to function with the competence and the steadiness that they have every right to be proud of. But tonight is different, and the difference is simple and complete. Tonight you are in the back seat. You are in the back seat of a car that is moving through the rain. The rain that has been falling since before you got in, that was already falling when the door was open for you and you climbed in and settled yourself along the back seat. And someone you trust completely arranged a blanket over you and closed the door with that particular solid sound of a car door closing properly. That sound that is both the closing of the outside world and the sealing of the inside one. The sound that means you are in, and the weather is out, and the warmth that has been building inside this car while it was parked is now yours, fully and completely yours, for as long as this journey lasts. The blanket is heavy. This is one of the first things you notice with your whole body rather than with your mind. The weight of it, the specific and deeply comforting weight of a woolen blanket that is thick enough to feel substantial on top of you, thick enough to feel like something rather than like nothing, thick enough to communicate to your body in the most direct and nonverbal way possible that you are covered, that you are contained. But the boundary between you and the cool air of the car is firmly and warmly maintained. It is the kind of blanket that smells faintly of the place it lives when it is not being used, a clean and familiar smell that is part wool and part the particular domestic warmth of wherever it was kept, a smell that is entirely unthreatening and entirely associated in the deepest part of your nervous system with rest, with being young enough to be tucked in with the time before you understood what it meant to be responsible for the tucking. You pull it up a little further with one hand, the hand that was resting loose on top of it, and you tuck it slightly under your chin. And the gesture is so automatic, so deeply practiced from so many years before you were the one who did the driving, that your body performs it without any instruction from your mind, without any conscious decision, simply does what it has always known how to do when there's a heavy blanket in a back seat and a moving car and someone trustworthy at the wheel. Your legs are slightly bent to fit the length of the seat, bent at the knee, your feet in their socks resting against the door on the far side. The slight pressure of the door against the soles of your feet, a small and pleasant thing, a gentle reminder of the solid structure surrounding you, the metal and glass and engineered safety of this car that is keeping the rain out and the warmth in, moving you forward through the dark without requiring anything from you in return. Your head rests on something soft, a jacket that was folded for exactly this purpose, placed with the consideration of someone who has thought about your comfort in the specific and practical way that people who genuinely care about you think about your comfort, not in an abstract or declarative way, but in the way of actually doing the small thing that makes the difference. The folded jacket, the heavy blanket, the fact that the heat was turned on long enough before you got in that the car was already warm when you arrived. The person in the front seat, you know them well enough that their presence there requires no explanation or narration. You know the particular set of their shoulders, the way they sit when they drive, the quality of attention they give to the road ahead, which is total and unhurried, competent in the specific way of someone who has been driving for a long time, who does it well without thinking about it, the way all deeply practiced skills become eventually a kind of physical knowledge that lives in the hands, in the body rather than in the mind. You cannot see their face from where you are lying, but you do not need to see it because you know it. You know it the way you know the things that have been part of your life for long enough to become simply part of what life is, simply present and reliable and entirely good. They have not said much since you got in. There was a soft checking in, a quiet, "Are you comfortable?" And you said yes, and the voice you use when yes is genuinely true and requires no elaboration. And they nodded and turned back to the road. That was the whole of the conversation, and it was exactly the right amount, exactly as much as was needed, and not one word more. Because the best kind of care is sometimes wordless, is sometimes simply the provision of conditions in which rest is possible, in which the person being cared for is not asked to perform their comfort or justify their gratitude, but is simply allowed to be in it, simply given the space to receive what is being offered without any social transaction attached. Outside the windows, the rain is extraordinary tonight. It is not a polite rain, not a considerate rain that falls in modest quantities and allows visibility to remain reasonable and does not inconvenience anyone unduly. It is a committed rain, a rain that has decided on thoroughness and has been falling hard for long enough that the streets are running with water, that the puddles have found each other and joined to become something larger, that the drains are working at full capacity, and the sound of water moving through them is part of the broader percussion of the weather. It falls on the roof of the car with a sound that is both loud and immediately comforting, loud enough to be completely present in your awareness, completely impossible to ignore or push to the background, and comforting because of what it means in the context of where you are, which is inside, which is warm, which is under a heavy blanket in a moving car being driven by someone you trust through a rain that you are entirely protected from. The rain on the roof is perhaps the most perfect sound in the world for a person who is trying to let go of the habit of overthinking. And you are that person tonight, which is why you are here, why the back seat was offered and accepted, why the blanket is over you, and the jacket is under your head, and the car is moving through the rain on a road that you have not asked the name of and do not need to know. The rain on the roof makes a sound that requires nothing of you. That is not a problem to be solved or a task to be managed. That is simply a sound, a full and continuous and deeply satisfying sound. The sound of water hitting metal at the rate that this particular rain is falling on this particular car, which is fast and constant and slightly irregular in the way that rain is always slightly irregular. The overall rhythm steady and full, but the individual drops landing at their own intervals, creating within the general continuous roar of the rain a more complex and layered texture, like something almost musical, but not quite, like something that wants to resolve into a pattern, but keeps choosing not to, keeps remaining just slightly beyond the mind's ability to predict, and therefore keeps the mind engaged in the gentlest possible way, engaged just enough to prevent it from turning inward to its usual business, not enough to prevent it from resting. The engine hum is beneath all of this, beneath the rain, and beneath the sound of the tires on a wet road, and beneath the occasional soft sound of water thrown up by a passing car in the other direction. The engine hum is there's the foundational note, the deepest and most constant element of the sound environment inside the car, felt almost as much as heard, felt in the seat beneath you, and in the slight vibration of the door against your feet, and in the very faint resonance of the window glass that your head is near, all of these surfaces conducting the engine's low frequency into your body with the gentleness of something that has been doing this for the whole of the journey and will continue doing it for the whole of the night without any variation, without any interruption, without any request for your attention. This hum is the sound of competence. It is the sound of something working exactly as it is supposed to work, the mechanical heart of the car doing its particular and reliable thing, converting fuel to motion, to warmth, to the feeling of going somewhere without effort, the feeling of being carried. And the hum communicates all of this in the most direct way available to it, which is to simply be there, constantly and without drama. The sound of everything being handled. Your body is beginning to respond to all of this the way your body always responds when the conditions are right, when the temperature is perfect, and the sound environment is soothing, and the surface beneath you is comfortable, and there is weight above you, and the person you trust is at the wheel, and the rain is keeping watch, and the engine is doing its steady and reliable work. Your body is beginning to soften, not dramatically, not all at once, but in the slow and sequential way of genuine relaxation, the way that warmth moves through something cold from the outside inward, from the edges toward the center, from the places closest to the source of warmth toward the places that are furthest, and all of it taking time. The unhurried and entirely sufficient time that the body needs to do this properly. Your shoulders have dropped. You notice this because you notice the difference, because there is almost always, in the ordinary hours of a day, a slight elevation to the shoulders, a slight holding, a physical posture of readiness and responsibility, the body's way of saying I am in the front seat, and I know it, and I am prepared for whatever comes next. And that holding has released now, has let go along with the breath that you exhaled when you first settled into the seat and pulled the blanket up, has given itself permission to stop, to simply rest in the natural position that shoulders find when they are not carrying anything. Your jaw has unclenched slightly. Another thing you notice only in the release of it, the small and unconscious tightening that lives in the jaw during the waking hours, the slight compression of teeth that accompanies concentration and problem solving, and the general maintenance of adult composure in the face of whatever the day has required. Gone now, or most of it gone. The jaw simply resting in its natural position, the teeth not touching, the muscles of the face slack and the ease in the way. They are only when you are deeply asleep or very nearly so. Your hands are loose, somewhere beneath the blanket. Your hands have found their uncomfortable position, one of them perhaps curled slightly against the warmth of your own body, the other resting open on the blanket surface, and both of them completely still, completely released from the grip that hands maintain all day long, the gripping of steering wheels and pens and phones and coffee cups and the handles of bags and all the other things that hands spend their days gripping in the service of getting through the day. The car moves through the rain with a steadiness that is itself a form of reassurance. There are no sudden movements, no sharp turns, no abrupt changes of speed, only this smooth and continuous forward motion that you feel less as direction than as simply going, simply moving through the world without friction, without effort, without any of the decisions that going somewhere usually requires. The driver has the decisions. The driver is handling all of it, all the small and continuous adjustments of steering and speed and attention that driving requires, handling it with the ease of long practice and the care of someone who knows that you are in the back and that you are trying to rest. And so the car moves as gently as a car can move, as smoothly as the rain-wet road allows. And you feel this in your body as a rocking, almost a very gentle and almost imperceptible rocking that is less like being on a boat and more like being somewhere between the car's stillness and its motion, resting in the slight physics of forward movement, held between the going and the staying by the heavy blanket and the warm air and the gentle competence of the person at the wheel outside the window nearest your head. The world is streaked and blurred and beautiful in the way that the world always becomes beautiful when it is seen through rain-covered glass at night. The streetlights are out there, the orange ones, the particular amber orange of sodium streetlights that is one of the most purely nostalgic colors in the human visual experience, that color that exists nowhere in nature and yet that the brain associates immediately and deeply with night and safety, being in a car as a child, being driven somewhere by adults who knew the way, being small and warm, and entirely without responsibility for the route. These streetlights pass by the window in a rhythm that is slow enough to be felt as separate events, and fast enough to feel like a sequence, like a visual rhythm that corresponds to and reinforces the rhythms of the rain and the engine, adding one more layer to the sensory lullaby that the world outside is singing to you through the glass. Each light approaches as a blurred glow in the wet window, a warm amber that blooms and brightens, then passes and recedes, pulling a streak of orange across the beaded glass as it goes, and then the darkness between the lights, and then the next glow building from the darkness, and then the brightness again, and then the streak, then the recession, and then the darkness, and then the building, over and over, light and dark and light and dark in this steady and unhurried alternation that is perhaps the most hypnotic thing your eyes have ever rested on, that is asking your eyes to do the same thing over and over in the most gentle possible way, asking them to follow each light without effort and release it without regret, and accept the next one when it comes and release that one too, and in this endless gentle receiving and releasing, the eyes grow heavier and heavier, the effort of keeping them properly open becoming less and less justified, less and less necessary, because all they are being asked to do is watch the lights pass. And the lights will pass whether the eyes are fully open or half closed or simply resting behind lids that have come down like curtains at the end of something that has been very good and is now very naturally over. The windshield wipers are going. You can hear them from the back, a soft and metronomic sound, a swish, and then a pause, and then a swish back. Swish and pause and swish back, the rubber blades moving across the glass in their arc and clearing a brief clarity in the rain, and then the rain filling in again, and then the blades returning. And this sound, this utterly ordinary and entirely reliable sound, has a quality that you have perhaps not given it the credit it deserves before tonight, the quality of pure and perfect regularity. The quality of something that will simply keep doing what it does as long as the rain falls and the car moves and the engine runs, without variation and without fatigue, and without any need for your input or your attention or your management. It is the sound of something else being handled. That is what the wipers are. One more thing being handled by something that is not you. One more element of the night's navigation that has been taken off your hands. And you receive this too. Receive this swish and pause and swish back. With this same gratitude, you are receiving everything tonight. The gratitude that is not performed or expressed, but simply felt in the body as a general loosening, a general giving over, a general permission to stop being in charge. The rain is heavier now than it was when you got in, or perhaps it is the same, and you are simply more aware of it because you are more relaxed, more receptive, more present to the sensory world, and less occupied with the interior one. Either way, it is very present, very full. The sound of it on the roof, a continuous and generous thing, not a single note, but a broad and complex texture of water hitting metal at many points simultaneously, each drop contributing its infinitesimal sound to the whole becoming something that is not quite noise and not quite music, but something between them. Something that the brain processes not analytically, but bodily, not as information to be interpreted, but as sensation to be received, to be let in and felt in the chest and the shoulders and the slowly relaxing jaw and the heavy limbs beneath the heavy blanket. Your eyelids are at half-mast now. This has happened gradually and without any decision on your part, has simply occurred the way all the best things tonight have simply occurred, without effort and without announcement, as the natural consequence of conditions that are doing exactly what good conditions do, which is to create the state they were designed for, which is rest, which is the release of the grip on the day and the week and the year and the long accumulated weight of being the person who is always in the front seat. Through the half-closed eyes, the window is less a window and more a surface of light and movement. The streetlights reduce to blurs of warm orange that expand and drift across the rain-beaded glass without any clear edges, without any sharp definition, simply warm and amber, moving past in their patient rhythm, and between them the dark, and then the warm again, and the dark and the warm, and the dark and the warm, and the rain making its continuous, generous sound on the metal above you, and the engine doing its deep and steady thing in the space beneath the sound of the rain, and the wipers swishing and pausing, and swishing back, and the car moving forward through all of it with the smooth and unhurried ease of a vehicle being driven well by someone who cares about the person in the back. You are not thinking about tomorrow. This is perhaps the most remarkable thing about the past few minutes. The thing that would surprise the version of you that got into this car. The version that arrived carrying the usual freight of unfinished business and upcoming obligations and things to remember and things to decide. The version whose mind had been doing its habitual and exhausting work of future management, even as the body was settling into the seat and pulling the blanket up. That version's mind has gone quiet, or mostly quiet, or quiet enough that the thoughts that are still there have lost their urgency, have become like the streetlights, things that pass through the field of awareness, and are gone without requiring any response, without demanding that you reach for them, or hold on to them, or do anything about them at all. Tomorrow will be there tomorrow. This simple fact, which your rational mind has always known, and which has never previously been sufficient to quiet the part of your mind that worries about tomorrow tonight anyway, has tonight actually landed somewhere below the level of the rational mind, has landed in the body, has been received not as a thought, but as a physical fact, the way the warmth of the blanket is a physical fact, and the sound of the rain is a physical fact, and the motion of the car is a physical fact, and in the company of these other physical facts has settled and been accepted, and the worry has not exactly disappeared, but has become small, has become something that the body can hold without strain, has become proportionate to the night and the warmth and the rain, and the fact of being driven by someone you trust through darkness you do not need to navigate. The lights are fewer now. You have been aware of this only gradually, the intervals between the orange streetlights growing longer, the stretches of dark between them deepening and widening, the car moving from the part of the journey that passed through inhabited places, through the lit and named and peopled geography of a town or a suburb, into something less inhabited, less lit, less named, the long and quiet road that goes between the places, the road that is not a destination, but a passage, the road that asks nothing of the people on it except to keep moving, to keep going, to trust that the road knows where it is going even when the people on it do not. The street lights have almost stopped now. There is one, and then a long darkness, and then another far ahead that takes a long time to arrive and passes and is gone. And then the darkness is simply the darkness, the dark of a countryside road at night in heavy rain, a darkness that is not menacing, but simply deep, simply the absence of light in the way, that deep darkness always is the absence of light, complete and genuine, and entirely comfortable from the inside of a warm car, under a heavy blanket, with someone you trust at the wheel. The rain is still there. The rain has not diminished at all. Is it anything more audible in the absence of the streetlights and the sounds of the town, more present in the quiet of the highway, drumming on the roof with the same patient thoroughness it has maintained throughout, saying the same thing it has been saying since the beginning, which is simply that it is here. It is falling. It will continue. And all of this is happening outside. And you're inside. And the difference between outside and inside is exactly the distance between your skin and the metal of the car's roof, which is very close, and therefore the feeling of being inside and warm and covered while the rain falls is very immediate, very present, very specific and detailed in its comfort. The wipers keep their rhythm in the dark. Swish and pause, swish back, swish and pause, and swish back. You cannot see them, but you know their sound as well now as any sound you have ever known, as well as your own heartbeat, which has slowed to match the rhythm of the car and the rain, the engine and the wipers, which has found its own place in the soundscape of this journey and settled there, settled into the warmth and the dark and the motion, the heart doing its quiet, faithful work in the center of a body that is finally, completely, without reservation, at rest. The voice inside your head, the one that has been talking for most of your adult life, the one that narrates and plans and worries and second guesses and reconsiders and drafts the email and rehearses the conversation and calculates the risk and weighs the options and always has something to say about whatever is happening and whatever might happen next. That voice has grown very quiet, not gone, perhaps not entirely silent, but reduced, diminished, running at a very low volume in a part of your mind that you are not currently visiting, part of your mind that is there the way a room in a house is there when you are not in it, simply existing, simply waiting, not requiring anything from you right now, perfectly content to be empty for a little while, for the length of a night, for the duration of a journey, in the back seat of a car in the rain. Let it be empty. Let that room be empty and quiet and undisturbed for a little while. It will be there in the morning. It will be ready for you in the morning. It will have all the thoughts and the plans and the decisions waiting when you need them. But right now, it does not need you, and you do not need it. Right now, what you need is exactly what you have, which is the dark and the rain, and the hum and the blanket, and the weight of rest coming down over you like something very large and very gentle, and very much prepared for you specifically, fitted to you specifically, arriving at exactly the right time. You're breathing in the quiet of the car, in the dark, on the highway, in the rain. Your breathing is very slow now, so slow that the pauses between breaths are longer than they have been all day, longer perhaps than they have been in weeks. Genuine pauses, real rest, the breathing of a body that is doing the minimum required and finding that the minimum required is more than enough, is in fact exactly what is needed, exactly the right amount of in and out to keep everything going while using as little energy as possible, while directing as many resources as possible toward the work of rest and repair, and the slow, and quiet restoration is what sleep is for. In, the chest rises very slowly, the blanket rising with it a small and barely perceptible amount, the woolen weight of it shifting and settling with the breath and then out. Even more slowly, the long and releasing exhale that seems to take the last of the tension with it, the last of the holding, the last of the front seat posture that the body has been maintaining for so long it had forgotten what it felt like to be without it. And then the pause, the small and perfect pause, the rest between breaths, that is its own form of sleep, its own tiny vacation from the business of being alive and awake and in charge of things. The road is very straight now. You know this not from looking. Your eyes are barely open, are resting more than looking, are receiving the darkened blur of the window without making any effort to focus or interpret what they receive. You know the road is straight from the quality of the motion, the way the car does not lean or curve, the way the engine note does not change, the way everything is simply steady and forward and even, the way a long straight road at night in the rain always feels, which is like something extending to infinity in both directions, like a path that is entirely reliable about being a path that makes no demands of the driver beyond the demand of simply staying on it, which the driver is doing, which the driver will continue to do, all the way through the dark and the rain to wherever this road decides to bring you, which is somewhere safe, which is always somewhere safe, because the driver is someone you trust, and trust does not end at the edge of town or at the beginning of the long, dark highway. Trust travels with you. Trust is as present in the dark as it was in the light. Trust is perhaps more present in the dark, more necessary, more felt. The rain and the roof, just the rain, just that continuous, entirely sufficient sound, that drum roll on metal that has no pattern and all patterns simultaneously, that is always the same and always slightly different, that has been with you since the beginning of this journey and will be with you when the journey ends, and will be with you through all the hours between beginning and end, falling on the roof of this warm car with the same patient thoroughness it brings to everything it falls on, the road and the fields and the trees and the darkness between all of these things, and the roof of the car, and beneath the roof and beneath the blanket, and beneath the soft weight of sleep that has been coming for a while now, and has arrived fully and without announcement, has simply been here for the last few minutes, without you having noticed the exact moment of its arrival, because that is how it always comes, always without an announcement, always quietly, always simply present when you turn around to find it. The hum, just the hum now, the engine beneath the rain on the roof, the wipers, swish, and pause and swish, the dark outside the window, the warmth inside the blanket, heavy, perfect, your breathing, so slow, someone you trust, at the wheel. You don't have to know the route, you don't have to check the map, you don't have to arrive anywhere tonight, just the backseat, just the rain, just the hum, just the dark, just the warm, just this, just the rain, the engine, the dark road, your breathing, the rain, falling, still falling, always falling, and you are safe, warm, still, breathe, home, the rain, just the rain, and the hum, and the dark, and the deep, unbroken, perfect sleep.